standing strong and tall. Yeah, this is the bovine coming on the air, sharing the stories of the folks who care. Profiles of passion, voices of the trade, dairy strong legends being made. Yeah, this is the bovine coming on the air, sharing the stories of the folks who care. Profiles of passion, voices of the trade.
Welcome back to the Bovine Podcast, where we cut through dairy industry noise to get you the insights that actually matter for your operation.
Today we're doing something a little different. We're diving into a profile piece about a Minnesota woman named Michele Schroeder, who sold her family's dairy herd and found an unexpected and frankly essential way to stay deeply embedded in the industry.
Her name is Michele Schroeder, and this story has just some deep layers that will resonate with anyone who's ever faced that brutal question of what exactly comes after the cows leave.
It absolutely does.
And I think we need to set the emotional context right up front, because this is where the story, it just hits home for so many people listening.
Yeah.
When we talk about a farm transition, and specifically one where the herd is sold and leaves the property, it is never just a business decision made on a balance sheet.
Oh, not at all. It's an identity crisis. It's rolled into profound loss, grief, and often this quiet resentment that you don't even talk about.
That identity struggle is as real as the 4 a.m. alarm, isn't it?
It really is. I mean, farming isn't a job you clock out of. It's the structure, it's the purpose, and fundamentally, it's who you are.
Right.
So when that structure is yanked away or those gates close for the last time, it leaves this huge echoing cavern in that family's life. Michele Schroeder's journey matters right now because she walked through that loss, that silence, and found something that didn't just replace the labor, but it actually amplified her value and her knowledge within the industry.
And her discovery isn't happening in a vacuum. Her decision to pivot into professional relief milking and her subsequent success are framed by three massive pressures facing dairy producers across North America right now.
For sure.
First and foremost, we're talking about the chronic labor crisis.
Exactly. The turnover rate in dairy labor is just staggering. We consistently see reports citing turnover near 40% annually in many regions.
40%?
Think about that. You spend time training 3 people and one of them is gone before you can even finish the training cycle. That means finding reliable, qualified, professional help is not just difficult, it's often nearly impossible.
And when reliable labor vanishes, that leads us directly to the second massive stake, the mental health toll on the farm family.
It has to.
When you can't find labor or you can't trust the labor you find, guess who covers the 24/7 workload?
The farmer and their spouse, every single time.
It leads to relentless chronic burnout that jeopardizes health, relationships, and eventually the viability of the whole farm.
That's the critical structural gap Michele stepped into. She didn't just find a side gig. She found an industry necessity.
Absolutely. So our mission today is to explore Michele's journey, from selling the family herd and experiencing that deep loss to gaining a critical new purpose as an indispensable relief milker.
Yeah, let's dig in.
We're going to trace her path from that quiet, early identity as a 4-H kid to becoming this incredible industry resource. And here's the kicker we need to preview for you.
This is the part I love.
Her children, Alex, Aiden, and April, are now winning major dairy awards and building phenomenal agricultural resumes.
But they're doing this not through milking their own cows daily, but through what we're calling the unconventional classroom, learning the ins and outs of dozens of different farms, parlors, and management styles across the state.
That adaptability is the unexpected inheritance we're going to unpack.
It's a powerful lesson in how to manage change. Okay, let's unpack this by starting at the very beginning of her agricultural identity.
So Michele Damon grew up west of the Twin Cities in Minnesota on a relatively small 40-cow dairy. She was the oldest of 4, and interestingly, she described her younger self as painfully shy.
It's a common paradox we see in farm life, isn't it? I mean, the barn, the animals, the rhythmic routine, it can be the most nurturing yet demanding environment for a shy kid to find their confidence.
Right.
The cows don't judge you, but they require absolute attention and discipline. For Michele, that transformation started in 5th grade, around 1988, when she joined 4-H.
And this detail is important. She was a first-generation 4-H member.
Ah, okay.
Her family hadn't been involved before, so she didn't have that built-in foundation, that generational knowledge of how to enter the show ring or complete the projects. She had to build that initiative and discipline entirely on her own.
That takes a specific kind of drive. So she starts showing a registered Holstein fall calf, and the impact, as you said, was just immediate and profound.
It really was.
It wasn't just a slight change. She went from being quiet and reserved to outgoing, focused, and dedicating herself entirely to agriculture. That shift from painful shyness to public confidence is a testament to the structure that showing and responsibility provide.
And that focus solidified rapidly through her involvement in FFA, the Minnesota Junior Holstein Association, and it led her directly into higher education, culminating in a dairy science degree from the University of Minnesota Twin Cities.
A great program. And this is where we see the validation of her expertise. To make the highly competitive 1997 U of M dairy judging team, that is a serious, serious achievement.
That it is.
It means you don't just know how to milk a cow. You possess the knowledge, the eye for confirmation, the genetic understanding, and the ability to articulate your reasoning under pressure to a panel of experts. That's professional validation at the highest level.
That judgment training, the ability to walk into any barn, quickly assess the cattle, and determine their value, we need to file that away because it's going to be so crucial to her current success.
She was a professional long before she was an owner.
And she had already dipped her toe into relief work years before, even while she was still figuring out her formal path.
Right, she started relief milking way back in 1992, the summer between her first and second years of high school.
Think about the era, 1992. No cell phones, no instant communication, no GPS. Just pure trust.
Just a landline and a promise.
Exactly. A farmer had to hand a high school kid the keys, explain the routine, and just trust that she would show up in the dark, manage potentially volatile animals, and get the job done right.
That reliance speaks volumes about the early trust and responsibility she earned and maintained. She also points out that she loved routine, the rhythm, and the twice-daily check on every single animal.
But she also notes a key practical benefit that shows her professional mindset. She treated these relief jobs as, professional development.
She was already thinking that way.
She said, and I'm paraphrasing, I was part of the dairy industry, would often learn something, meet people, learn new things or ideas I could borrow and take home.
That's critical. She wasn't just filling a labor slot for minimum wage. She was gathering knowledge from multiple operations. Every new barn was a case study in efficiency, genetics, and management style.
Yeah.
That early adaptability and appetite for diverse knowledge is precisely why she can perform her current job so well. She was trained by the industry, not just by one family farm.
That adaptability, however, was put on the back burner when she married Jason Schroeder. And this is where the weight of legacy truly comes into focus. Jason had spent 3 decades, 30 years, milking in the family barn. That's a multi-generational history. And when you marry into that, you take on that weight of expectation and routine.
It's an overwhelming inheritance. So Michele naturally stopped the relief milking to focus entirely on building their operation and raising their 3 children, Alex, Aiden, and April.
And the reality of the modern farm economy set in quickly. Even with that generational foundation, they needed off-farm income. Michele worked as a rural property appraiser from 2011 up until 2021.
And that off-farm hustle, combined with the on-farm commitment, created that classic, exhausting farm juggle. I mean, she'd leave her appraisal job at 5 p.m. sharp to pick up the kids, while Jason was still finishing the evening milking, often not wrapping up until 7:15 p.m.
That schedule is the definition of passing ships in the night. It's just, they're both dedicated to the farm and the family, but they're constantly running a relay race where one parent is always absent from the dinner table or the bedtime routine.
Because they're either at the off-farm job or trapped in the barn routine. It's emotionally and physically exhausting just tracking that timeline.
Absolutely. And you realize that schedule is unsustainable, especially when the economics of dairy start to put the squeeze on.
The question isn't if something will break, but when. And that squeeze, combined with aging infrastructure, eventually led to the toughest decision.
So by 2017, Michele and Jason were trying to navigate this impossible situation. Milk prices were at rock bottom, and they knew they couldn't continue the status quo without making a serious strategic shift.
What's important here is that they didn't immediately surrender. They tried to pivot strategically. Their initial plan was actually quite insightful.
What was it?
They planned to build a 3,000 head hog finishing barn that would provide a crucial, steady income stream to offset the brutal volatility of dairy prices.
Okay.
And they would keep just 25 milk cows, a small, manageable herd, specifically to teach the kids the heritage and the daily routine.
That sounds like a brilliant, balanced compromise. It stabilizes the finances with a guaranteed market in the hog operation, and it honors the dairy legacy by maintaining the educational component for the next generation.
It was a perfect plan. It was a perfect hybrid model for survival. But the reality of 2018 just crushed it. The market wouldn't cooperate.
And milk prices stayed miserably low. The futures look absolutely bleak.
And critical farm infrastructure was crying out for major, unaffordable investment. That's always the tipping point.
What were the specific infrastructure issues? Because that's so often the final blow.
Michele specifically cited two things that needed immediate attention. The bulk tank needed to be replaced, a huge capital expenditure that is non-negotiable for a dairy operation.
Right.
And at least one silo needed to be fixed or replaced.
Ugh.
When you run the numbers on those critical repairs against the backdrop of sustained low prices, that capital expenditure just becomes the straw that breaks the camel's back.
That is the silent killer of so many small to medium-sized operations. You can grit your teeth and survive low commodity prices for a few years if your equipment holds up.
For a while, yeah.
But when a necessary piece of equipment fails or reaches end of life, like a bulk tank or a silo, and the market shows no sign of recovery, that loan payment is simply too big to justify.
And as Michele put it, the writing was on the wall.
Once you acknowledge that writing, you start the grueling, quiet process of the emotional exit. This happened in November of 2018.
And the sources paint such a vivid, almost unbearable picture of the final days. The cows left in stages. Initially, 8 went onto a cattle jockey's trailer destined for who knows where. Then the main herd, requiring 2 gooseneck loads on consecutive, brisk, quiet days, was shipped off to a registered Holstein operation in South Dakota.
Bypassing the local market, trying to ensure they went to a place where they would still be valued.
For nearly 2 weeks leading up to the end, they only milked the final 10 cows, and she recalls the barn feeling profoundly wrong, too quiet, the routine suddenly halting.
And the night before the very last cows left, the entire family, Michele, Jason, Alex, Aiden, and April, gathered in the barn and milked together for the final time.
That is just an immensely powerful image of an ending ritual. The weight of that moment is incredible. Michele admitted there were tears, some of us more than others.
And she had this insightful, almost paradoxical observation about why they were crying. I want us to linger on this quote because it captures the true emotional contradiction of farming.
It really does.
She said, "Who would have thought that years of working every day without a break, the stress of paying bills, dealing with bitter cold and extreme heat, day in and day out, would result in tears at the end?" Funny, but it did.
Man, that hits me hard. That single line perfectly encapsulates the unspoken emotional toll. You spend years wishing for a day off, wishing for the stress to end, focusing entirely on the grind.
Yeah.
And when the stress finally lifts, the loss of the routine, the loss of the purpose, and the loss of that animal connection is so overwhelming it brings you to tears.
It's the grief of losing the life you fought so desperately to keep, even if that life was literally killing you with exhaustion.
It's a complex, shared grief, and the children felt it deeply, too. Alex, who was 9 at the time, took it the hardest. He had grown up fully immersed in the herd.
And April, who was just 5, still had that profound sense of ritual. She insisted on having one last picture taken with the cows before she went to school that morning.
Wow.
Then Jason walked through the newly empty barn. He described it as eerie, cold. Only the cats, confused by the sudden silence and lack of activity, remained.
You realize you've been living in a constant state of warmth, animal noise, and purposeful routine, and when that silence hits, it is deafening.
It is.
It's a moment that validates the experience of every farmer listening who has had to make a similar choice, or who is currently lying awake at night struggling with the decision to sell.
We frame this entire story as validation for that struggle. Michele's experience validates the pain, the regret, and the tears. But what makes her story so instructive is what she did next, proving that the knowledge, the passion, and the discipline don't just vanish when the milk truck stops coming.
The transition from despair to purpose begins just a few months later, and it starts with a simple invitation.
The turning point happened in April 2019, just 5 months after the cows left. Michele was attending the Holstein's dispersal sale.
So she's standing there, watching another family go through the dismantling of their life's work, another scene of genetics scattering across the region.
And I think standing there, watching that process, it must have solidified her sense of identity as a dairy professional, even if she wasn't an owner anymore.
Right. She's still connected, still grieving with the community. And that's when Jackie Rickerman approached her and asked a simple question. Would Michele cover their milking that July? They needed a break.
And this wasn't an easy commitment. The Rickerman's farm was a 45-minute drive away. Michele immediately agreed, but logistics were complicated.
Her husband, Jason, was going to be away for a work trip, so she had to negotiate staying at the Rickerman's house and bringing her 3 children with her.
That's the definition of dedication. Driving 45 minutes to work someone else's shift, bringing your kids, sleeping in a strange bed all to milk someone else's cows.
Jackie Rickerman later expressed surprise, questioning why Michele, a former farm owner who just got out of the daily grind, would travel 45 minutes to milk someone else's herd.
That question highlights how unusual this level of commitment was. It wasn't about convenience or the easiest paycheck. It was about loving the work, wanting to stay connected, and, most importantly, demonstrating an unparalleled level of reliability that the industry desperately needed.
And that July job at the Rickerman farm was a full-on baptism by fire. She jumps back into relief milking, and the farm is in high gear.
Right. She noted a new calf was born almost every day she was there, including a set of twins on the final day of her shift. It was intense, busy, and demanding.
Imagine stepping into that situation cold. But this is where the kid's unconventional education starts instantly. Alex, who was 10, was immediately learning skills that many kids don't master until they're teens.
What was he doing?
He was tasked with drawing up and administering oxytocin injections right there in the milk vein.
At 10 years old.
At 10. And Aiden, who was 6.5, was helping move the fresh cows into position. They weren't just observing, they were working crew.
And Michele shared one fantastic piece of comic relief from that week. Alex saw watering the flowers at the Rickerman farm meant watering about 5 flower pots.
I love this part.
He was apparently very surprised by the extensive flower watering required for the farmstead. It breaks the tension, but also shows their immediate immersion into every aspect of farm management.
Beyond just the cows.
Okay, let's zoom out now and analyze this from an industry perspective. Because Michele is not just a dedicated mother finding side work, she is filling a critical structural void.
The labor crisis is multifaceted. Beyond the sheer shortage of bodies, there is a profound lack of trusted, qualified coverage.
That's the key word, trusted.
Relief milking fills that essential void where farmers desperately need professional help to take a break, attend vital family events like a daughter's wedding, or manage true emergencies like illness, injury, or harvest overload.
But why does Michele's professional service succeed where, say, calling a neighbor often fails?
It comes down to professionalism and breadth of experience. A neighbor might help in a pinch, but they often don't have the time, the diverse knowledge of multiple parlor systems, or the sustained commitment to quality control that Michele brings.
So she's selling reliability and expertise.
That's it. And the trust factor here cannot be overstated. When a farmer hands over their barn keys, they are handing over their livelihood. They are trusting this individual with their genetics, their financial stability, the health of their animals.
Everything.
Everything.
Yeah.
Michele's entire business model is built entirely on earning and maintaining that trust across multiple clients.
And let's not ignore the very real, practical economic motivation. She was very open about using the money earned to support her family's transition and personal goals.
Right. For example, she milked nearly every Friday and Saturday night during their kitchen remodel in the fall of 2020.
That paid for the kitchen remodel, a family project that created a sense of permanence and moving forward after the sale. And she also used the money to buy Jason a father's ring for Christmas.
It was more than just pocket money. It was converting her deep, specialized expertise into immediate, practical results for her family's future and emotional well-being.
Yeah, turning a professional skill into a family resource.
But here's the most powerful anecdote about the true human impact of her work, the hidden cost of no breaks. She shared a story about a neighbor whose father was dying of pancreatic cancer.
This is where relief milking transitions from labor coverage to profound human necessity. Michele was covering milking shifts, allowing the family to continue with harvest and manage the daily chores.
But she didn't know the reason why the coverage was so critically important at the time. She only learned the true, devastating context at the funeral.
So she realized her presence, her reliability in the barn, allowed that family to spend precious, uninterrupted time with their dying father without the stress of abandoning the farm during harvest.
They didn't have to choose between their father's final days and their livelihood.
That is an impact that goes so far beyond the milk check or the per cow rate. It underscores the vital role of this service in providing essential human space during a crisis.
It absolutely does. And it underscores Michelle's deep insistence that farmers need breaks for their mental health. When you hear a story like that, it just drives that point home.
And let's talk about Jason's perspective on mental health post-dairy.
Michelle mentioned that one of the things that helped Jason immensely was when he joined the township board. He needed that mental break from the relentless daily stress of dairy farming. The routine of milking twice a day for 30 years means the stress doesn't just vanish when the last cow leaves. Having a separate outlet, a non-cow related purpose, like civic engagement, is crucial for recovery.
So the role Michelle plays isn't just about labor efficiency, it's about life efficiency for the community. It's a crucial safety net.
She's the ultimate resource. And what's truly fascinating is how she's leveraged this service model into a completely new, incredibly effective model for educating the next generation of dairy professionals.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting and analytically rich. Michelle took the closure of their own farm and turned it into arguably the most comprehensive, diverse, practical dairy education imaginable for her children.
No single farm, no matter how good, could have provided this breadth of experience. It's the ultimate multi-farm education model. They aren't just learning one set of equipment or one specific routine. They're learning how to adapt instantly.
And she breaks down exactly what they learn in each different setting, and it's brilliant.
Yeah, she says they learn that tie stalls, for example, require intense patience and attention to individual animal needs. You can't rush the routine there.
Then they switch to a herringbone parlor. And suddenly they have to master rhythm, efficiency, and consistency across a line of cows.
And then maybe they jump to a modern parallel parlor, and that requires speed, rapid indexing, and total control over a quick routine. Or they might work in a 200-cow operation, where they are learning efficiency and scale management.
Why is that diversity so crucial from a farmer's perspective?
Because a kid who grows up only in a parallel parlor might never appreciate the discipline and patience required in a tie-stall barn or vice versa. Michelle's kids get it all.
So they learn that there isn't just one right way to milk a cow.
Exactly. There are dozens of right ways, and the best dairy professionals can move seamlessly between them. That adaptability is the currency of the future in agriculture.
And while she's managing these different systems, she's keeping herself and her children grounded in the broader industry context. She makes a point of noting that she listens to KNUJ AM 860 Farm News and Markets from New Ulm while she's milking.
Headphones on 95% of the time.
That's more than background noise.
Oh, for sure. She's physically doing the work in someone else's barn, but mentally she's still analyzing commodity markets, understanding the milk futures, and connecting the daily grind to the economic forces shaping the industry.
She's modeling for her kids that a true dairy professional is always learning, always analyzing, not just executing the physical task.
And the lessons learned are profoundly practical, often demanding initiative and high-level problem solving. We have this great anecdote about Alex.
The scraper story.
Yes. At one job, Alex noticed that the alley scraper had been broken for months. It was a chronic problem the farm had just learned to live with.
And Alex didn't ask permission, didn't wait for someone else.
Nope. He just grabbed a welder and fixed it himself.
That is pure professional initiative. Yeah. This is not just relief milking. This is recognizing a long-standing business deficiency and applying a specific high-level trade skill welding to solve a problem that impacts efficiency and hygiene.
Right. And we hear about Alex, even before he was licensed, driving the tractor to a relief job. That shows a level of confidence and responsibility that is often only built when you realize that someone else's operation depends entirely on you showing up and solving problems.
The unexpected lessons are always the most memorable. I love this story about Aiden in the parlor.
Me too.
He was 6.5, helping prep cows, and he spots a bull in the parlor. And he asks his mother, with total seriousness, "What's that pink thing that keeps coming out under his stomach?"
And Michelle, without skipping a beat, gave him the correct anatomical term straight. No sugarcoating, no awkward parent explanation.
And he just paused. His eyes probably widened, and then he went right back to prepping cows.
That's the real, unvarnished farm kid education right there. They learn differently because the classroom doesn't allow for ambiguity or embarrassment. It demands knowledge.
And that confidence and knowledge gained from varied experience doesn't stay confined to the relief barn.
No, Aiden actually took that initiative and taught his friend Jackson how to prep cows in Jackson's own family parlor.
Wait, in his friend's barn?
Yes. He was emphasizing that a son should know how to do chores on his own farm, demonstrating a sense of ownership over the skills he had acquired.
This is where we have to fundamentally challenge the assumption that a child must grow up exclusively on their family farm to succeed in agriculture.
The awards are the hard proof of this unconventional classroom success. Both Alex and Aiden have won the Nicollet County Holstein Association Outstanding Junior Boy Award.
Winning that award is a massive achievement for any child in a prominent farming family, showing leadership, commitment, and skill.
But to win it when you don't milk your own cows daily, that absolutely defies tradition. It proves that the quality of education, the exposure, the professional responsibility, the constant handling of many different types of cattle trumps, the quantity of time spent in a single family-owned barn.
They have built exceptional, diversified resumes using borrowed infrastructure and their mother's network.
And this commitment leads to incredibly stressful yet illustrative moments. Think about World Dairy Expo in 2025. Alex is competing in Madison 300 miles away, showing his Ayrshire cow.
And Michele, however, is relief milking in a stranger's barn, unable to attend. The image of the modern dairy mom.
Standing in the living room of her client's farmhouse, watching the live stream of the show, balancing the milking schedule with her son's high-stakes competition.
And she couldn't help but coach him from afar. Standing on the coffee table, yelling at the TV, she recounts screaming, "Stop overworking her."
I can just picture it.
That is the perfect visceral image of a dairy mom. Even when she's not physically present, she's emotionally, analytically, and physically invested in that moment.
And when Alex placed 12th, competing against the eventual grand champion, Michele's reaction was classic farmer relief. "I'm glad I wasn't there. It was done. I didn't have a long drive back home, and I saw what I needed to see."
She got the satisfaction of the competitive outcome without the high stress of the travel and the intense show ring atmosphere.
Yeah. And we should note the scope of their ownership. The three children collectively own 15 animals, plus Alex's independent 3-in-1 partnership. The family operation may have sold, but the passion and the genetics are being kept alive.
Their classroom may be unconventional, their barn may be temporary, but the results are undeniable. They're learning discipline, initiative, advanced animal science, and business management, all wrapped into one traveling education.
That adaptability is the ultimate legacy.
This brings us to the evolution of the farmer role itself. Michele Schroeder embodies a new, critical figure in modern agriculture, the professional, non-milking dairy farmer.
She is selling time and expertise, not a commodity. She's there for the ordinary emergencies, as she calls them. The daughter's wedding, the late harvest, the funerals, the mental health breaks.
She proves that sometimes the most important figures supporting the dairy community are the ones who provide the essential, highly specialized service that keeps the cow owners afloat and sane.
And we need to look at Jason's parallel transition. After 30 years in the family barn, grinding away at the routine, he was ready to be done when the last cow left.
And while Michele jumped back in via relief work, Jason needed a clean break from the daily labor.
That's a common and completely understandable reaction for a family that's endured that 3-decade grind of ownership and responsibility. He channeled his deep practical experience not into physical labor, but into pedagogy.
Right, he became a farm business management instructor at South Central College.
So the knowledge is still being passed on, but through a different institutional channel. He is now teaching the next generation how to run the numbers, how to pivot, and how to survive the economic realities that ultimately forced their own hand.
It's a fantastic way to honor his experience without returning to the 7:15 p.m. finish time.
And the family legacy is adapting rather than ending. They are still tied deeply to the land. They're planning the sesquicentennial celebration of their farm, set for around 2030.
That's 150 years since the land entered the family.
Yes. They're even planning a breakfast on the farm celebration.
That is a profound commitment to heritage and community identity. It proves that legacy isn't strictly defined by the contents of the bulk tank, but by the connection to the land and the community that sustained them.
Exactly. They can celebrate 150 years of family farming, even if the cows left a few years shy of that milestone.
And the kids are looking forward with incredible clarity about their professional dreams, April dreams of veterinary medicine.
Alex is talking about starting a cattle boarding business, utilizing that diversity of burn experience he's gained. And Aiden, smartly, watches his options carefully.
Michele's conviction about their future is powerful. The sky's the limit for these kids. She believes this because they started building their professional resumes early, working both on their home farm and, critically, on dozens of others.
They are not waiting for college to define them. They are actively preparing for dynamic, specialized agricultural careers that require broad knowledge.
But, as with Michele's life, change is constant. In February 2025, she actually accepted a significant new part-time position as the district outreach representative for Congressman Brad Finstad.
That's a huge pivot again, demonstrating that her core skill set, her ability to connect with farmers, her reliability, and her deep, intimate knowledge of the agricultural community's struggles is transferable directly into the political and policy sphere.
She knows the pressure points of the dairy industry because she lives them every time she steps into a client's barn. So we have to wonder how this new role influences her availability.
It definitely forces limitations. She's had to limit her availability for new relief milking clients, so she's wisely keeping those relationships strong with her longtime clients.
She knows what her roots are.
And that her professional credibility rests on maintaining those vital connections to the people she represents. It's a perfect symbiosis. Her policy work informs her milking. Her milking informs her policy work.
Before we move to our final takeaways, we have to share Michele's final wisdom for those facing the exact path she just walked, the family that just sold their herd and feels utterly lost.
She has two incredibly important pieces of advice. The first one is pure heart, and it's often ignored by those in transition.
Oops, that.
She says, take some time to reconnect with your spouse and family. You've just spent years milking cows twice a day, every single day. The cows are gone, but the people who stood by you are still there. There's no better way to thank them than the gift of your time.
That is such crucial advice. When you sell, the last thing you want is for the farm closure to turn into a family crisis because you're still running on that high-stress treadmill, emotionally unavailable.
You need to reset the clock. And then she gives the harder, more practical truth, which shows her forward-thinking, professional mindset. Have a plan. Right. Saying, I'm resting after selling the cows can only be done for so long. Everyone needs something to do in life, a purpose, an activity, a plan.
You can't replace the 4:50 a.m. alarm, the cows, and the 7:15 p.m. finish time with nothing. That void will consume you.
You need structure and purpose. And Michele found hers in serving the very industry she thought she had left. She truly embodies the evolution of the dedicated dairy professional.
She's there, often in capris, old tennis shoes, and a Hard Rock Cafe visor, in the dark hours of the morning, keeping other people's dreams alive.
That is the definition of quiet, essential impact on the modern farm landscape.
All right, so someone's listening to this on their way to evening milking. Maybe they're feeling that exhaustion deep in their bones, or they're struggling with the pressure of a tough decision. What should stick with them immediately from Michele's incredible story?
My first takeaway is an immediate reflection point, and it relates directly to mental health and the future of your operation. When's the last time you took a real guilt-free break? Not an hour, not a single morning, but a genuine 48 or 72-hour period of rest. If you don't have an answer, you need to stop viewing relief milking as an extravagant luxury and recognize it as a core necessity for the sustainability of your farm and your family's mental health.
It's a necessity, not a luxury. That's excellent. My second takeaway is for anyone who has already transitioned out or is considering it, the medium-term lesson.
Okay.
If you're a former dairy farmer or transitioning out of ownership, could your deep, specialized skills fill a vital labor gap like Michele's in your local community?
Yeah.
That expertise in animal care, milking protocol, and diverse parlor systems is incredibly valuable.
It doesn't die when you sell the cows.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You are uniquely positioned to professionalize this service and solve the labor crisis for your neighbors while finding purpose after the herd is gone.
Absolutely. And the long-term lesson for those raising the next generation is about preparation and the unconventional classroom.
Okay.
How are you preparing your children for the dynamic future of agriculture? Are you forcing them into one monolithic system, your way, your barn? Or are you providing exposure to many different farm systems, technologies, and scales? Michele's kids are winning major awards because they are adaptable. That diversity is the most valuable resume builder you can give the next generation.
Adaptability is the key word. Michele Schroeder's life is a masterclass in adaptation, showing us that the end of one chapter is simply the beginning of a far more essential one.
Her story proves there's life after dairy cows, and sometimes it keeps you closer to the industry than you'd expect. This has been another Bullvine podcast.
For the full feature article with photos of the Schroeder family in action, including Alex on the show floor and Aiden helping prep cows, head to www.thebullvine.com. Subscribe wherever you get podcasts. We're out with new deep dives regularly. Until next time, take care of those cows, and most importantly, take care of yourselves.